Okay. So I'm JC with ADI, and with me is the bearded one.
Yeah, I mean, the community popularly knows me as Bearded CIG. My real name is Jeffrey Pease, but probably not a good thing to use me by, because if you Google that name, you're not going to find me for like a couple of hundred pages.
And some of the stuff you find you're really not going to like.
Probably not. I don't know. I haven't gone that deep.
So you do DevOps-ish stuff.
Yeah. I'm kind of a unique bird in the realm of CIG, because prior to working here, I was a game master at Blizzard. Prior to that, I was a QA specialist, or assistant QA specialist at Sony Online. Prior to that, I did QA at Sony Computer Entertainment America.
Just curious, what were you doing QA on at Sony Online?
So I was an assistant QA specialist on the pet system for Free Realms.
Cool.
And it was one of the more complicated aspects of the game that needed to be tested, because the pet system had to do with a combination of, like, you had to work with the artists, and you had to work with the designers, and you had to work with the pathing system, and you had to work with the AI guys. And so, like, a lot of the times when you ended up testing the pet system in that game, so there's this thing in QA called regression testing.
Yes,
and what regression testing is, for anyone that doesn't know, is that you'll get a bug fixed, and what you have to do is you have to go through that bug again to make sure that they're fixing it actually fixed it, but also didn't break a bunch of other stuff.
And fixed it in every possible way.
Yeah. And so, like, there were times that I would have regression for the pet system where I'd be like, hey, I need someone to help me with some regression, and they'd be like, sure, as long as it's not a pet bug. Just because like complex systems like that, people are just like, I don't want none of that.
You do one little thing here and it breaks 8 other things over there. Yeah, been there. So I'm a former DevOps guy. I came up through the internet side of the house. But so let's talk about DevOps. And I know there's some stuff you aren't going to be able to talk about, but let me ask simple questions.
Okay.
How do you like AWS versus Google?
Man,
just you. No. Just you personally. not for CIG. Just you personally. How are you liking AWS versus Google?
See, the problem with answering a question like that is that it could be seen as like advertisement versus I don't know.
Fair enough. No,
I was just saying, like, I don't know the legality behind me answering something like that, so probably best if I don't.
That's that's fine. That's fine. But talk to us, because I think this is common knowledge that you guys are using AWS for your hosting with the Lumberyard, and you have a lot to do with that and a lot of the statistical analysis of that stuff, right? So let's talk statistics. What kinds of stuff are you guys able to track today to help you make a better game? So
the big thing that I work on is stability statistics, because initially when I started working here, I started off in QA. And I'm like, one of the reasons why I was good at QA is because I'm very passionate about wanting to make an experience good for other people. Like when I play other video games, like I tend to gravitate towards playing like a healer or a tank, because I like to help other people. So nobody was really driving making the game more stable. I would look at our concurrency graphs, and I'd be able to see that the servers were crashing, because back then, when the servers would crash, everyone would go back to the lobby. So you'd see the graph for people in servers go down, and the graph for lobbies go up. And I'd look at that and say, well, the servers are crashing a lot, and people would be like, well, how bad is it really? And so we had to come up with a way of...
Now you got to figure it out.
Yeah. So I ended up coming up with a pretty simple equation that answers how bad is it really, so that when people ask, well, do we need to spend time fixing these things, because how bad is it really,
here's a measurement.
I can undeniably tell them, here's how often people are experiencing these problems.
and it's increased this much because of this problem. No, I completely understand that. But I've got to say, stability has gone way up. I mean, it seems like, from my perspective, I know you're not going to be able to say anything, the move to AWS has been a big boon. The stability is a lot better.
So, I mean, AWS isn't going to have as much of an effect on stability.
I know that, but I mean, the stuff that you guys have been doing in that space as part of that move has really seemed better coding, getting metrics in, and fixing bugs.
Well, yeah, a lot of that's going to be agnostic to AWS, though, because like a lot of our analytics go through tools that basically have nothing to do with AWS.
AWS is just the bare metal that runs the containers.
Yeah. It's like AWS is the house that you're living in.
Yeah. And you could move to a different house if you really wanted to, but AWS is the apartment complex you guys are in right now. So, and you also have something to do with pushing the builds?
Yeah. So the Evocati pretty much know me as the server murderer.
Yep.
Because when a new build gets released, what we do is like we'll shut down the old environment and then we'll turn on the new environment. And so I'm typically the one that goes into Evocati chat and says, "Hey, server murder time," and then they're all like, "Oh God, pay respect to the servers," and you see all these Fs show up in chat. I also make terrible jokes, and so a lot of the time people will just be throwing puns at me, and sometimes I'll look at my coworkers and be like, "Hey, here's some puns the Evocati said," and they'll look at me and be like, "Oh, why? Spare me."
So I'm going to ask a couple questions. You probably can't talk about it, but I'm a DevOps guy, so I'm really curious. So what kind of container technology are you building your server instances on? Are you using Kubernetes? Are you using, for the server? Because there's a lot of server geeks that play Star Citizen.
I want to say that it's something that we're aware of and considering, but not something. Well, so like I'm not involved in the platform side of things.
Oh, so you're not pushing the server builds as far as the containers?
Well, I honestly am not sure as to how much I can answer about the technology that we're using.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just asking cool DevOps questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that stuff might actually be better to ask Ahmed, and I don't know if he's gonna if you can trick Ahmed to come up here and talk about that stuff.
We're working on that, and Chambers and some of the others, but
he'd be better to ask because he'll have a better idea of like what we can and can't say.
No, it's fine. The good news is you guys have a much better process now than you did 2 years ago.
like one of the jokes that people in DevOps tend to make is that your job I can't talk. Your job as a DevOps engineer is to essentially automate yourself out of a job.
Yes.
So yeah, like
a good DevOps engineer is a lazy DevOps engineer because he doesn't want to do something more than once or twice before he starts figuring out a way to automate it. Mm-hmm. And you guys have definitely been zen with that process, it seems like, here last year.
There have been some things that Ahmed has come to me and say, "Hey, I want you to do this thing." And I'll look at it, and I'll look at the interface, and I'll look back at him and be like, "This is going to take a really long time." And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm scripting this. I don't want to click all these buttons."
More importantly, even if I have to click these buttons, I only want to do it once. Then every time after that, I want to apply template and go.
Yeah.
So what's great, I know you can't talk about Evocati.
That depends on what the question is.
No. Well, I don't want to ask you questions about Evocati because I know that's under NDA.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
Can you give us any general statistics that we would find interesting? As far as server instances created per hour or anything crazy like that is just off the wall minutia that everybody would find kind of cool.
The initial OCS build was the least stable build in the history of the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive. That's definitely impressive. Well,
on the other hand, it's got nothing but better from there. So.
Well, but that's generally the trend you'd be looking at. There have been some spikes along the way, let's be honest, but it's gotten a lot better. I mean, you guys, the code that you've put in to handle disconnects and being able to get people back into the same server instances and stuff like that is really helping with playability. So I mean, from that
a lot of that's a combination of work between like the UI team and the backend services guys and the game server guys all working closely together. Because like the UI guys have to be the ones that make sure that the prompts are showing up correctly, and like the backend services team is the one that makes sure that like the game servers and the stuff are communicating properly with each other, so that you can identify like which server you were in when you disconnected, and then it basically when you say, oh yeah, I want to reconnect to that one, the backend services guy said, okay, this is the game server they were in, so do a matchmaking request over there, so they get back into that one.
Let's see if we can get it back in.
It's a combination of a bunch of different people working together.
So the last question I have for you, and this is not me trying to throw you under the bus, but the thing is a large org that is killing us in 3.2 is the dreaded party, somebody leaving the party bug, and it freezing certain people's screens right as they're trying to land or fight. Or can we say that you guys are aware of it and that we're hoping that we might see a fix in 3.3 of that? Or you know the bug I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, but so the issues, the way that players see them and the issues the way that I see them, like,
are apples and oranges.
Kind of, yeah, because I see the functions and the call stacks and things that get called, and so in the event that somebody's able to submit something to the public crash handler, basically our systems will digest the information that they send us, and then what shows up on my end is I see the code that was basically breaking.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't for certain be able to say whether it's fixed or not without knowing which one of those issues that is, and then looking at what's happening on the current build.
And so that one's a hard one because it's not a hard crash, it's a freeze.
Yeah.
And so you don't get a crash report on it in a lot of cases.
If you wait long enough, you do.
No, because sometimes it'll just unfreeze. That's the scary thing about it, is you'll be going along, you'll be coming in for a landing, and somebody will leave the party, and 4 minutes after they leave to the second, the game, some people in the party randomly, their game just freezes for about 90 seconds.
It's weird that it unfreezes.
And then it unfreezes if they don't quit out by getting bored.
Okay.
Just as a heads up. Or sometimes they get disconnected, but it doesn't do a hard crash where you get a bug report.
Okay, normally, at least.
I know that's a hard, but that's one of the...
well, so like that's not something, so like I don't fix things, I break them.
Yeah.
So, I think in the history of the game, I've maybe fixed like 2 things.
But you break it in an interesting way so that other people can fix it.
So one of the things that I ended up fixing is when we initially started testing the Hurston map, or not the Hurston map, like when Hurston and stuff got added to the map. There is I can talk about this because it's Linux.
Yeah.
There is a default value on Linux for how many memory mapping regions that can be used.
Yes, I've had that one bite me on web servers in the past.
Yeah, we hit that.
Really?
So the game servers were dying, and people were like, well, it looks like memory corruption. And then, so like I was trying to debug the memory corruption, and as part of the process of me debugging memory corruption issues is I increased the memory map cap.
And then all of a sudden
it stopped doing it. I'm like, why is this not, like, why can't I reproduce this bug anymore? And I thought about it and went,
it's because I fixed it.
I thought about it and went, oh, we're exceeding the operating system limits.
The file open limit is another one that you'll smack up against.
We haven't hit that one, but we're aware of it.
Yeah, because it's one of those weird ones where it just smacks you upside the face, and you're like, oh, well, I'll start the troubleshooting steps, and the troubleshooting steps keep you from reproducing the bug. And you spend 3 days scratching your head, and then you go, oh, that's where it's coming from.
Yep. Yeah, it was exactly one of those. Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do some memory corruption testing, and I was like, why is it not happening anymore?
And then we hit some hard limit. And then good logging. That's one of the things that DevOps guys have to worry about, is being able to get, because if you're capturing D-message into your logging system, it's going to print out errors on that. So.
I laugh because like good logging is. You're like, man, it would be great if this caused an error.
Well, but it does. That does cause an error. It shows up in the D-message.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like just like in general, when you have something go wrong and you're like, man, it would be great if this caused an error.
Wishing upon a star.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes you have programs that don't have proper signal handling.
Oh yeah.
And so you're like, well, this program is killing itself, and I don't know why, because we don't have proper signal handling.
Or worse, it's crashing somewhere and you're running up the chain, and that's the error message you're getting. It has nothing to do with what caused the crash. Been there, done that. Well, Bearded CIG, this guy keeps the servers up and running, helps us get the new builds out.
Some of the time.
Some of the time.
There's multiple of us. So Ahmed's the server.
But you're in that team.
Ahmed's the server wizard.
Yep. And we're constantly seeing you on the forums, Spectrum telling us stuff that we should know.
Nate's another guy on our team.
Cool.
Some of the time he's putting PTU.
So where are you guys based out of, your team?
We're in Austin.
Austin. Cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like the other guys on the team get credit for what they do, because
it's a team effort.
Yeah, like our work is mentally exhausting.
Yes.
Because if you make one mistake, like, oh, you put a space in the JSON key.
And you're up for 32 hours straight.
Yeah, you're like, God, why is this not working? We've had a couple of things where like, oh, there's a space in this JSON key that we've been looking for the last 2 hours.
Dude, one time I was building a Docker image and I put a period where there should have been a comma, and it was and it was production, of course, and we couldn't roll back because we made a database change, and it was 32 hours of just going cross-eyed and finally just going, oh no, that simple. Boop, boop. Resubmit. Oh look, it works.
Oh look, it works. Yeah.
It was really complicated, sir. I promise you. That's what it was. Not an easy fix. We worked all night long and it had to do a lot of stuff. Trust me. Been there, done that.
No, actually, but so I try to be honest about the things that I screw up about.
Fair enough.
Because Ahmed is really meticulous about wanting to understand where mistakes happen, because he wants to identify why the mistake happened, where it happened, and what we can do to avoid it in the future. And if there's areas where it's really prone to human error and that human error can cause catastrophic consequences, we try to either
automate.
Yeah, we try to automate it, or if it's not something that's particularly specific to the work that we do, like if it's something that has to do with something failing in code, we try and talk with the programmers and be like, hey, can we get like an error put in for like when this stuff happens, so that when the environment's just crashing and on fire and burning down to the depths of the, we can like be able to identify what's going wrong. And
so, Bearded CIG and and the team he's in are the guys that keep the servers running. We really appreciate that. And thank you for stopping by and chatting with us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all coming to CitizenCon.